Step number 1, connecting an access point to your laptop or PC. After buying a brand new access point or any other network device, it is necessary to configure that device before using it on your own network. So, first connect your access point directly to your laptop or PC via Ethernet cable. Although you can connect your new AP directly to your network and configure it, but it is recommended to connect the new device to your PC or laptop for initial configuration. Actually, if you connect the new access point directly to your network, then after power on the new access point, it will search for the DHCP server on the same network to get IP address from. So, if there is a DHCP server on your network, then it will get IP address from there. Thus you will first waste your time to find the assigned IP address before accessing the web interface. So, always connect the new device directly to your machine for initial configuration. After making the initial configuration and testing, you can use the device on your own network. I will now connect my brand new access point to my laptop's Ethernet port. Before proceeding, make sure that you have all the accessories like power adapter and an Ethernet cable to connect your access point to your laptop or PC. So let's start. As you can see, that I have a RUCKUS R510 access point. If we turn it over and check the rear side, then you will find some details like default IP address, username and password along with other details. There is one 12-volt DC power supply point, one simple gigabit Ethernet port, one PoE Ethernet port, one USB port and reset button. I will use the simple Ethernet port to connect the access point to my laptop. If you want to connect via PoE Ethernet port, then you will need the PoE switch or PoE injector to supply power. But I have a separate power adapter, that is the reason I will be using the simple gigabit Ethernet port. So, I will first turn on the access point by plugging in the power adapter. The access point will power on. Then, I will insert the one end of the LAN or Ethernet cable into the simple gigabit Ethernet port of the access point. The Ethernet cable must be inserted properly, because loose cable will cause bad communication between laptop and access point. I will now insert the other end of the Ethernet cable into the laptop Ethernet port. Wait for a moment, so that the Ethernet LED light starts blinking on the laptop Ethernet port, which means both devices have been connected properly. Now, the next step is to access the web interface of the access point and configure it. Let's go to the next step. Step number 2. How to access web interface of a RUCKUS access point. First of all, make sure that the access point and your laptop both are connected properly and are on the same network. To check the connectivity, open the command prompt on your laptop and try to ping the default IP address of the access point. I will open the command prompt and type ping 192.168.0.1 and press the enter button. As you can see, the access point is not responding. It means that I have not assigned the same network IP address to my laptop as of the access point's default network, which is 192.168.0.x, with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. So, to assign the IP address of the access point's default network to my laptop, I will open the Ethernet adapter settings. Right-click on the Ethernet, and click on the Properties. Then, select the Internet Protocol version 4. And click on the Properties again or double-click on the Internet Protocol version 4. I have assigned an IP address of my own network here. Now I will add another IP address with the same subnet mask as of the default network of the access point. To add another IP address, click on the Advance button. Then under the IP addresses option, click on the Add button. I am going to type the IP address 192.168.0.10 and the subnet mask 255.255.255.0. You can assign any IP address from 192.168.0.2 to 192.168.0.254. Do not assign the IP address 192.168.0.1 to your laptop. This IP is the default IP address and already assigned to the access point. After typing the IP address and subnet mask, click on the Add button. Do not enter the gateway address here, because we only need the IP address of the same network to communicate with the access point. Click on the OK button. Click again on the OK button. Now I will again open the command prompt and will try to ping the IP address of the access point to check the connectivity. As you can see, the access point is responding now. Means, now both the devices are on the same network and are connected physically and virtually as well. I will now open the web browser, and I will type https://192.168.0.1 which is the default IP address of the access point. Press Enter button. If you see this page, then don't worry. Click on the Advance button. Click on the Proceed to 192.168.0.1. This is the login page or web interface of the RUCKUS access point. Type the default username which is super. In the password field, type the default password which is sp-admin. Click on the Login button to log into the admin panel. Since this is the first time I am accessing the web interface or admin panel, so after entering the default credential, it will ask me to change the password for security reasons. Here, I will type my own password and then retype the same password again. Now, let me tell you that after clicking on the Submit button, it will redirect me to the login page again. So that I will log in using the new password. Click on Submit button. Now again I will type the default username but, this time I will enter the new password. Click on the Login button again. This is the main page of the RUCKUS R510 web interface, where we can make configurations like creating SSIDs, changing IP address, update or upgrade and downgrade the firmware and many more. Step number 3. Device name, location and credentials configuration. I will make here the basic configurations, which is very important and required to configure before using any access point on the network. So, first I will configure the device name and its location. To configure that, click on the device option under the configuration tab. On the right-hand side, first I will type the device name. You can type any name as per your convenience. I am typing infotech RUCKUS R510. Now enter the location where you will be going to use this access point. In the login credentials, type the new username and password. You can type any name and password as per your convenience. Actually, credentials need to be changed for security reasons. It's recommended but not required anyhow. Remember, in the current password field, enter the password, which we recently changed, while trying to access the web interface for the first time. If you don't want to change the username and password, then leave it as it is. Click on the button, Update Settings. You will see a message above that your parameters were saved. Step number 4. Assign static IP address. Next important configuration is assigning a static IP address. I will now change the IP address of the access point to static IP address according to my own network. To change the IP address, click on the Internet option under the Configuration tab. On the right-hand side, choose the static option and then type the IP address of your network along with the subnet mask. Remember that, before assigning the IP address of your network, make sure that the IP address you are going to assign is not already assigned to any other device on the same network. The gateway option is optional. You may leave this option empty if you want to. Remember, after entering the static IP address, when I click on the button Update Settings, the access point will stop responding on the default IP. Now we will access the access point with the new static IP address that we assigned. If I ping the new static IP address of the access point that I just assigned, you will see that I can receive the reply from that IP address, which means the default IP address has been changed. Hence, accessing the access point using the default IP address will stop working now. Note: if you are unable to receive any reply from the new static IP address, it means that you need to assign an IP address of the same network to your laptop's Ethernet as well. As we did in the beginning of this video, I already have assigned the same network IP address to my laptop's Ethernet, so I do not have any issue. Let me show you that I have already assigned the IP address of 10.0.2.56 to my laptop's Ethernet. I will open a new tab and type https://10.0.2.40 and press the Enter button. We will be asked to enter the credentials again. Remember, if you have changed the username and password along with the static IP address, then you need to enter the new username and password here. Since I changed the username and password, so I will enter the new credentials here. I will now proceed towards the next step. Step number 5. Create Wi-Fi network or SSID. Next I will create the Wi-Fi networks or SSIDs against 2.4G and 5G. Let me tell you that, we can create up to 8 different Wi-Fi networks or SSIDs on RUCKUS R510 Access Point, against 2.4G and 5G for different supported devices. You can create up to 16 Wi-Fi networks or SSIDs. To create the Wi-Fi networks or SSIDs, I will first click on the Radio 2.4G option, under the Configuration tab to create a Wi-Fi network or SSID for 2.4G devices. You can see that, on the right-hand side, you can create up to 8 Wi-Fi networks for 2.4G devices. I will create here only one Wi-Fi network for demo purpose. Click on the Wireless 1 tab to create the first Wi-Fi network. In the wireless network, you may enter any name as per your convenience. Actually, this name will replace the Wireless 1 tab name. Wireless availability need to be enabled. If not, then the SSID will be hidden. So, select the option Enable for wireless availability. In the SSID field, enter the SSID name that you want to broadcast and the users will be connecting to this SSID. You may type the same name for both wireless network and SSID for ease of management. I will type a slightly different name, just to show you that what is the actual difference between wireless network and SSID. But it doesn't matter if you know the difference. Now I will create a password for the SSID that I created, so that the users will be asked to enter password before connecting to the Wi-Fi network. To create the password, go to the encryption method. It will be disabled by default. Click on the small down arrow near the option Disable. Drop-down menu will appear. Select the WPA option. This is the recommended and strong encryption. You can choose between the version, authentication and algorithm of encryption, if you want to. I will leave it as the default. In the passphrase filed, enter the password. The recommended password should be complex, means it should be comprised of alphabets, digits and special characters. After entering the password, just click on the Update Settings button. You will see the message that your parameters were saved, means changes have been saved now. You can see that the Wireless 1 tab's name is replaced with the name that I entered in the wireless network field. So whatever you type in the wireless network field, it will only replace the name of that specific tab. I will now go to the Radio 5G option, which is just beneath the Radio 2.4G option. Here again, you can create up to 8 SSIDs for 5G supported devices. I will click on the first wireless tab, which is Wireless 9, to create the first SSID for 5G supported devices. Again, the name of the wireless network will only replace the name of that specific tab, means Wireless 9. Wireless availability must be enabled. I will enter the SSID name, but I will put the word 5G at the end. It is just for the demo purpose, and to show you that both the SSIDs will be broadcasted. I will show you when I once finished the configurations. In the passphrase field, I will type a different password. But I would recommend to keep the same password for both SSIDs for ease of management. After entering all the data for the required fields, click on the Update Settings button to save the configuration. That's it. The SSID's creation part is completed. Now I will show you other settings, which you need to check for information. Click on the Ethernet ports option just below the option of Radio 5G. You will see the two ports, Port 1 and Port 2. These ports are also labeled with blue color. If we check the Port 1, you will see that it is disabled. Reason is that I am connecting my laptop to Port 2. If we check the Port 2, you will see that it is enabled and is also acting as trunk port. I will leave these options as it is. Let's check the hotspot option. This is disabled by default. I will leave this page and will make a detailed video on this topic later on. Next important options that we need to check are under the management option. Here we can see the different ports which we can use for management purpose. First option is the Telnet Access port. It is disabled by default and the default port number for Telnet is 23. You can change the port number for Telnet if you want to. Next port is SSH. This port is enabled by default and the default port number for SSH is 22. We can also change this port number if we want to. We use SSH port to configure the access point using command line interface. Actually, mostly we use this port if we face an issue while accessing the web interface of the access point. Next two ports are the HTTP and HTTPS. These ports are used when we access the web interface using any web browser like Google Chrome, Firefox or Microsoft Edge. The HTTP port with port number 80 is disabled by default, which is a good idea because this is the unsecured port. Whereas the HTTPS port with port number 443 is enabled by default. This port is the secure port and is used to access the web interface of the access point. We can enable or disable any port and we can also change the default port numbers from this page. You can leave at least one port enabled. If not, then you will be unable to access the web interface of the access point using web browser. I will recommend that leave the HTTPS port enabled, which is a secure port. The next important options that we might need to configure is the SNMP management ports. These ports are used for monitoring purpose. By default, it is set to auto, but we can select any one of these options as per our requirements. I will make another video on SNMP monitoring. So I will leave this page here. I left one option, which is also very important. That is the time protocol, called NTP, means Network Time Protocol. To access NTP, I will again click on the Internet option. NTP is the server which your access point will access to, and will synchronize the time with. So, check for the time server on the Internet for your region. It is important for time synchronization that your access point must have Internet connectivity with IP address along with the gateway address. Without Internet access, the time will not synchronize. That's it. I showed you all the configurations which are important if you are going to configure your RUCKUS access point for the first time. Now I will verify that SSID are working fine, which I created each against 2.4G and 5G. As you can see, that both SSIDs or Wi-Fi networks are available, and if I try to connect to any of the SSID, it will ask to enter the password. So I will end this video here. If you have any query, just leave it in the comments section below. If you like this video, I would request you to like, share and subscribe my channel. Thanks. Please, like, share and subscribe my channel. Thanks.